He had worked his whole life to build something for himself, something no one could take away. But when an HOA Karen set her sights on him, she didn't just complain about fences or lawns. She tried to erase his very existence from the neighborhood. What followed wasn't just harassment. It was an attempt to destroy his life, piece by piece. But what she never saw coming was the moment everything would turn against her. How does a story of hate turn into one of justice? Stay with me, because this one will leave you stunned. It all began in a quiet suburban neighborhood where appearances mattered more than compassion. Families waved at each other from trimmed lawns. Kids rode bikes in cul-de-sacs, and the HOA ruled over everything like a shadow government. Amidst this lived Marcus, a hard-working man who had finally purchased his dream home. For him, this house wasn't just walls and a roof. It was proof of years of sacrifice, late nights, and determination. He wasn't wealthy. He wasn't flashy. But he took pride in his home, in his garden, and in being part of a community he thought would accept him. At first, things seemed fine. But then came her, the woman everyone quietly called Karen. She noticed everything. A leaf out of place, a car parked slightly over the line, a garden that didn't match her standards. But with Marcus, her scrutiny grew sharper, her complaints louder, and her actions more hostile. He brushed it off at first, just another nosy neighbor, he thought. But it wasn't long before her true intentions became clear. Letters filled with threats, fines stacked one after another, anonymous complaints that always traced back to her. The neighborhood may have looked calm on the outside, but for Marcus, each day felt like a storm was brewing, and deep down, he sensed something larger was coming, something that wasn't just about HOA rules, it was about him. At first, Marcus thought the situation would calm down if he kept his head low. He paid the small fines, fixed the minor violations, and tried to avoid conflict. But the more he complied, the more emboldened Karen became. She began circling his property during the day, clipboard in hand, scribbling notes as if she were an inspector. Neighbors started whispering, and though some sympathized, none dared confront her. After all, Karen had the backing of the HOA board, and what she said often became the rule. Soon, Marcus received a letter claiming his home's paint color violated community standards, despite it being the exact shade approved years ago. Another fine followed for his lawn, even though it was perfectly trimmed. It became clear Karen wasn't just nitpicking. She was targeting him. The harassment escalated. She called city inspectors, made noise complaints, and even filed false reports about his property. Marcus felt trapped. Every step he took to defend himself was twisted into another infraction. But the final straw came one night. Marcus returned home to find scorch marks across the side of his house. The fire department confirmed what he already knew. Someone had tried to set his home ablaze. The flames had been caught early, sparing the house, but the message was loud and clear. Karen's hostility had turned into open malice, and while no one dared say it outright, the whispers in the neighborhood told the truth. People knew who was behind it. For Marcus, it was no longer just about his house. It was about his dignity, his safety, and his right to exist without being hunted in his own community. He decided then he would no longer stay silent. With every document, every letter, and every false claim, Marcus began building a case. What Karen thought was intimidation became evidence. What she believed were small victories became the rope she tied around her own neck. But Marcus wasn't done. He knew the only way to stop her was not by avoiding conflict, but by facing it head on. The storm was finally breaking, and the courtroom would be the battleground. The courtroom was silent as Marcus entered, carrying a folder so thick it seemed to hold the weight of his entire ordeal. Karen sat across the room, arms folded, her usual smugness replaced by a flicker of unease. For months, she had waged a campaign against him. Harassment, fines, intimidation, even an arson attempt. She thought she had broken him. But what she didn't know was that every letter, every violation notice, every false complaint had been carefully documented. Marcus had come prepared. As the judge called the case, Marcus laid out the evidence one by one. Photos of his well-kept lawn, approved paint permits, letters riddled with baseless accusations, reports proving her harassment, and then the fire inspector's statement tying the attempted arson to someone in the neighborhood. The room shifted. The same neighbors who once stayed silent now leaned forward, watching the story unfold in black and white. Karen's face tightened, her confidence unraveling with each page turned. What had started as petty fines was now revealed as a targeted campaign of racial harassment, and the courtroom could see it, clear as day. By the time Marcus finished, the silence was heavy. The judge leaned forward, her voice firm but measured. The HOA's actions weren't just unfair, they were unlawful. And Karen's personal vendetta had crossed every line of decency and legality. In that moment, justice pierced through the arrogance that had fueled Karen's reign of intimidation. Marcus had not only defended his home, he had exposed the truth. The gavel fell. The HOA was ordered to pay damages. Karen herself faced consequences she had never imagined. And for the first time in months, Marcus walked out of the courtroom free of her shadow. But the victory was more than personal. It was proof that when courage meets resilience, even the most relentless hate can be broken. Marcus stepped outside the courthouse, the sun cutting through the clouds as if the world itself recognized the weight lifted from his shoulders. For so long, his life had been overshadowed by fear, humiliation, and constant battles. But now, the truth had been spoken where it mattered most. The damages awarded would help him rebuild. The HOA, once untouchable, was forced to confront its corruption. And Karen, the very woman who had tried to destroy him, was stripped of her power, left to answer for her cruelty. Yet, even in victory, Marcus knew this wasn't just about him. His story was one among countless others, stories of black homeowners, renters, and families who faced prejudice hidden beneath HOA rules, neighborhood whispers, and systemic injustice. His win was a reminder that silence only feeds oppression, and that standing tall, even when outnumbered, can change everything. Neighbors who once looked away now saw clearly. Some even approached him afterward, apologizing for their silence. For Marcus, the scars of what he endured would remain, but so would the legacy of resilience he had created. His story became more than a fight for one home. It became a message to anyone who had ever been pushed down, singled out, or told they didn't belong. And maybe that's why stories like this must be told. Because every time the truth comes to light, it chips away at the walls of hate that divide us. Marcus walked back to his home, not just a house, but a symbol of strength. And as you've listened to this story, ask yourself, how many others are still fighting battles like his? How many more will it take before we finally demand change together? If you believe stories like Marcus's deserve to be heard, if you want to stand against the silence, then don't forget to like this video, subscribe to the channel, and share it. Every click helps bring more of these hidden battles into the light, because sometimes awareness is the first step toward justice.